and we have our next amazing guests on, Maddie and Emma. How are you both?
All good, yeah. How are you?
Good. Okay, we can hear you and we can see you. Amazing. Well, you guys are here from Coastal Catalyst. And we're going to talk a bit about being a creative regionally as well, which I think is a really interesting topic. So, do you guys want to start by introducing yourselves and then maybe telling everyone a bit about who Coastal Catalyst is? Um, I don't know who wants to start.
Yeah, so I'll do a bit of the background on Coastal Catalyst. My name's Maddie. I work as creative opportunities producer with a focus on skills, and I'm based at the Warr Pavilion in Bexhill, which is an art gallery and theatre space. And we're currently working on Coastal Catalyst, which is a collaborative project with Brighton Dome. And it's all about creating more opportunities for young people along the Sussex coast. So we're working between Bexhill and Bognor Regis, and just making loads of stuff happen between there so that you can have a career regionally and so that you can feel like that is a possibility. And just as a side note, outside of this, I'm also a filmmaker, and a lot of the people working on this project do sort of multiple roles, and that's quite common in the creative industries. So just sort of to put that in there as well.
Amazing. Thanks, Maddie. Emma?
Okay.
Oh no, Emma, we can't hear you. Can you hear Emma? Um, Sometimes you have to click on the audio, the arrow by the audio, and maybe it's not connected to your.
Now?
Yes.
Good, because I'm not great at tech, so that's amazing. Hi, I'm Emma. I work on the feature creator side of the Coastal Catalyst project, as Maddie said, and my job title is project assistant, focusing on youth engagement. I actually came into this role from a dance background, but then I kind of suddenly realised that performing and being in the spotlight wasn't quite for me, and I didn't know much about the behind the scenes roles that existed in the creative industries or how people got into them. Myself and Maddie got into these roles through the Artswork Breakthrough program, which was a 6-month placement that got us into these roles. And I've been learning lots about the behind the scenes roles because of that. And we've both been kept on since then. So in my role, I kind of sit across lots of different, I don't know, I like to think of it as like hypothetical different departments. So anything to do with social media, newsletters, I manage our LinkedIn, looking at things with evaluation, and also I'm very involved in events and project planning.
Amazing. And did you both grow up in Sussex? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So as kind of regional creatives, what do you think the biggest challenge is for young people when trying to build a creative career regionally?
The biggie, this is the big question. I think I guess, I'll preface this by saying this is a massively big question. I think there's also, unfortunately, a multitude of barriers that all young people face when trying to get into the industries. In my brain, it helps me to think that it splits into two parts, right? So first you have like the kind of the awareness side of things. So I think there's a bit of a knowledge gap in terms of a lot of young people don't actually know what's out there. If you're not surrounded by creative organisations or creative professionals, it's quite hard to understand that these roles do exist. And also what people do on the day to day, it's a bit of a mystery and what job titles to look for. And it can unfortunately seem like they are a bit closed off if you're not in with the right resources. And then the second part being the barriers young people face when you know that you want to get in, but it's just finding a way to. So I think a key kind of, I guess a key word is access and accessibility. So whether that be access to opportunities, creative experiences, whether that's paid, unpaid, access to apprenticeships and things happening in your area. Obviously, if you live in major hubs, it is these opportunities don't come up naturally, unfortunately. So you do have a bit more of a challenge of getting involved. Things like apprenticeships are great. I mean, there is a bit of a gap in terms of these being available in some areas. And then they're fantastic because they give you the opportunity to then have something solid for your CV, gain experience. But I think a lot of young people will then kind of relate to the fact that then you're looking for entry level roles in the creative industries, but then you're hit by the line of, well, it requires some previous experience. And then you're
Mm,
like, well, where do I get this previous experience? So a bit of a minefield. I'm trying to think what else. And confidence, I think, is massive for young
mm,
people, based on your perceptions and other people's perceptions around you of the creative industries. You may not feel you belong when
mm.
we all have a voice and a role to play. So yeah, I guess this is why we do the work that we do to try and improve this and break down
Brilliant.
these barriers so everyone can get involved.
Well, you put that like really well, Emma. I really enjoyed like it was really clear how you explained that. It's so true. Awareness, access, and confidence. Um, what do you think about COVID and the pandemic? Because there are a lot more things like remote now and online. Like, would you say that that has helped a little bit for people regionally, or not really?
Definitely helped in a way of there being more online experiences available. And that is, I mean, an online experience is a great way to then kind of, I don't know, go on, expand your network that way, and get out there. But I do also think it has unfortunately limited young people in terms of the things maybe they've missed out on, or maybe not gone to events, and events like these have got less frequent because of the kind of constraints that we were put under when it was COVID.
Mm. And I think nothing can compare to in-person experiences as well.
I mean,
Um,
online it is very difficult.
it is, yeah. Maddie, what about some of the advantages about starting a career outside of a bigger city?
Yeah, so I mean, I think just to quickly touch on what Emma was talking about there, I think like one of the biggest things we hear about trying to find out about stuff locally is just that people don't know what's going on. So I think that can be the hardest bit to get past. But I think once you do find out about it and once you do find out about what's going on locally, it's much easier to find a sort of community and build a name for yourself locally. The really good thing about working regionally is that most of the organisations will know each other, they'll talk to each other. So if you can sort of make a connection with one creative organisation, then maybe you go for like a small job or a work experience with another, they'll probably know you and they'll be able to like recommend you. Which I wouldn't imagine is as easy in a big city where there's so many organisations and so much going on. They might not even know about each other. But I think
Mm,
that's the nice thing about local is that it's you do have that sense of community. I think unfortunately a lot of people working regionally do feel that need to go away and then maybe come back once they've built themselves up. And a lot of people working locally at the Delaware, things like that, will talk about their time in London as if it's sort of a rite of passage and everyone has to go there. But me and Emma have avoided it. A lot of the people on this project have stayed local, and I think it is something that's changing. I think funding wise, it's easier to get locally. And so I think a lot more opportunities like the work we're doing are popping up because funders want to make sure that it's not all just in London, it's not all in the big cities. And so we're seeing that there is definitely more happening locally. And even on a personal level, I think it's easier to get those sort of small bits of funding from Arts Council or film organisations or music companies. They like to fund things that aren't all in the same place. So if they can fund a few in London, but then make sure the rest is all spread out, it helps. And so I think that's definitely a benefit.
yeah.
Um, and I think it's also everyone moves to the big city because there's a lot going on, but then it means there's so many people applying for things, and so
Mm,
it can become quite competitive. And obviously that still does exist on a local level, but I think, like I say, because it's much easier to get into these organisations and meet the people working there. Myself and Emma, we're always at events, and so are the people project managing this project. So you're meeting the people right at the top. You're not just meeting the sort of event assistant or something like that. And so I think that opportunity to meet people at higher levels as well is something that maybe doesn't happen in the bigger spaces. So yeah, I think it's just there's a lot more room for progression and a lot more ways in than maybe there is in a bigger space, even though there's potentially a lot more training and jobs. It doesn't always get spread out as well in bigger cities.
Mm, yeah, no, completely agree. And what about, so if there is a young creative, based regionally, what advice do you have for them to actually find local opportunities or yeah, kind of create networks locally?
I would firstly say to exploit the kind of platforms that are designed for young creatives. I mean, we're on Eric right now. So I've definitely used the Eric app quite a lot in my journey. I found this job, the placement through Eric
Oh, did
actually.
you?
Good.
Oh, love that.
So I mean, it's full of opportunities, as we said, in person, online. Little sneaky cheeky plug. If you're in Sussex, I'd recommend following Future Creators and Talent Accelerator. We're constantly pushing events out that are happening regionally, across Sussex and beyond. Again, like Maddie said, it's the thing of knowing what's actually out there, which may be the barrier that is the biggest one to overcome sometimes. And if you get involved in a project with us, we're also working on digital badging, which is a way for young people to evidence their skills and build a stronger portfolio, which is also a significant part of also going for a job. So if you come along to one of our events, we'll be able to give you a badge. So when you're met with the kind of question of where's your experience for this role, you can say, wow, I did X, Y, and Z, and this is the proof. I guess following on from that, I would say creating who you follow online. Unfortunately, I think it's also like luck of the draw of who you're following or what pops up, that you then see those things on that explore page of your Instagram or whatever you're kind of on. And then there's competitions, free short online courses, LinkedIn, and also kind of directly reaching out to people. I think LinkedIn's a powerful tool in terms of networking, being able to share your portfolio and build a personal brand. And I guess regionally, it is also, I guess there's also a point of that you may not be kind of surrounded by the cultural capital in terms of creative organizations, but every community will have a, a charity, a cafe, a school, community centres, and all those kind of places and institutions need creative skills and creative people. So whether that's making a poster for their event or taking photos, social media, I mean, everyone's on social media these days. So sometimes opportunities don't come unless you ask for them. But if you say, well, I can offer you this, and get that experience, that's another way of going about it.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great idea. We had actually someone say that like a young student went to his local car dealership and offered to do like social media digital marketing and they were like, yeah. And now he's got like a full-time job there. So yeah, you're right. Like you
Uh,
kind of don't ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. Um, okay, so yeah, proactiveness sounds like it, you do need to get yourself out there. What would you say, because there's lots of teachers listening today, who I guess work with younger people. How would you how would you like stimulate someone who might not be as proactive as they need to be? Do you guys have any advice on tips for that? How can you actually stimulate that younger generation to think about careers and to, reach out to people because it is scary.
Mm. I think a lot of the people we work with, if they're not engaging in something, we're the problem, not them.
Mm.
Because these people, they want to find out about things. I think it is a tough time at the minute to be looking for careers and looking at the future. Like everyone knows, it's not sort of the best time right now, but I think there are examples of where it's working really well. Um, I mean, locally, we've got this in Hastings. There's a music venue called Badger that's just popped up, and they're specifically for young people trying to get into music. And they did over the half term, they did a music conference, and they had like 100 people at their open mic. but they're really new. And the reason it's working is because they've partnered with the local BMX park. And so
Mm.
they're in a cool space, they're meeting young people all the time, and they're also making sure that it works for them. So I think that's the main thing, is that if something that isn't working, then it needs to be looked at, because, sort of a lot of the careers advice and stuff isn't suited to creative careers. And I think
Mm.
schools are changing, or sometimes you get a really good teacher or careers lead who wants to make sure that creative careers are spoken about. But a lot of the time it's sort of ignored because the teachers don't believe it's a possibility. And so
Mm.
you're not going to then get young people trying it because the teachers aren't pushing them. I got told to do maths as a as a career when I was failing maths because our career lead was a maths teacher.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem, is that these types of things and how it's all organized doesn't work. But I would definitely say schools should look for those local organisations, because a lot of it is capacity. The schools don't necessarily have the capacity to improve the things, but if they can partner with people like us, we go in, we deliver that, we give CV advice, we give really good creative careers advice. That actually, when we talk to those young people, they say, I didn't realise this was a possibility. And a lot of them leave quite inspired and wanting to know how they can then progress. So I think it's just about making sure it's actually suited to what they need.
Yeah, that's such a good point. If they're disengaged, then that's like it's obvious that there's something's not quite right there. And you need to kind of, yeah, like you said, inspire them and find what they're passionate about, because it's really obvious, I think, when someone is engaged and when someone is really interested in something. Okay, so for both of you, what would be your one piece of honest advice that you wish more young creatives knew?
Well, I would say, I'm trying to think what I would want to hear like a year ago before this job. I would probably say that you don't need to have everything figured out. I
Mm.
know that's a bit of cliche advice, but I think I had a bit of a quarter life crisis. I mean, it happens, right? Where you're like, I'm not sure what I'm doing. And I would say, like, you don't need to have the perfect plan or like the perfect portfolio or like even know where you want to go, like what field. I mean, there's so many creative fields that you could choose. And I think that's reflected because, I mean, most people in the creative industries don't have a straight path anyway. We normally move around quite a lot. So even trying something, even though it may not be exactly what you want to do, you're then gaining those skills and experiences. And even if you come out of it thinking that was not for me, it's still a plus. You're still moving onwards. You still then have seen the valuable kind of lesson of knowing that that isn't something that you want to do again.
Mm.
And then you can always change and move on to the next thing. There's this quote, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but I think it's like, you would rather regret something that you did than do nothing at all.
Yeah.
So then knowing that you'll then learn from those experiences and just not to put the pressure on too much.
Mm.
And
It's like we need to be less afraid of getting it wrong, and like,
yeah,
and actually that's good to get it wrong, because then you know what you don't like. And yeah, it is tough, isn't it? What about you, Maddie?
I guess it's quite similar, but I think I would say that no one ever really feels that they've made it in this industry. A lot of the people I talk to, even if they're at like what I would say is my career aspiration, they won't necessarily feel like they've made it, or they feel like something's not quite right. And I think there's this feeling that you're going to get to a point where you're like, oh, I've made it, I've done it, I've done whatever it was that I wanted to do. Um, but I think a lot of people feel like imposters in this industry, because you're kind of constantly working on yourself, you're constantly building. And like Emma says, it is often quite sort of wobbly career paths. So I
Mm.
think it's common that people don't actually necessarily feel like they've made it, because they might sort of do something really great and then they have to divert another direction. Um, or, a lot of people might sort of get to a mid-level in lots of different things rather than sort of working your way up like you do in a lot of maybe traditional career paths. So yeah, I think it's definitely just not putting that pressure on yourself to feel like you've done whatever it was you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And like Emma said, to just keep growing. I think it's also okay for things to move at a slower pace, particularly with post-COVID. I graduated in 2021, and a lot of people in my like year group didn't. get jobs for like a couple of years in any sort of field. Um, so I think it's quite normal that things move a little bit slower now because there is a lot less entry level, just because of how that stalled the sort of working world. So if things don't move at the pace you want them to, it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just that things might be taking a bit longer. But that can also be a really good opportunity to sort of learn more about yourself and learn more about what you like and dislike. Because it might be that sort of the retail job you're working actually gives you loads of skills like communication and working with people and working to deadlines that actually then an employer will really value. So yeah, just sort of taking it as it goes and not feeling that pressure to be the best or do whatever it was you're aiming for.
Amazing. And last question, because we're ready at 20 minutes. How can young people stay motivated in this current climate? Or how do you stay motivated?
I think motivation definitely comes in waves for everyone. I think it's also hard when in the creative industries that normally then passion and enjoyment mixes with professionalism, and with professional environments comes maybe a bit of pressure. Um, so something that I do quite a lot is think back to the why of why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. So especially like, why did I start? What are my kind of values that align with the job that I'm doing? So, I mean, I really enjoy helping people. So this job, I really enjoy that aspect of things. So I think about the impact that we're having. You can think about, why does this work matter to me? Why is this field right to me? I think it's just reminding yourself kind of generally, and then it kind of helps recenter if you're feeling a bit lost. And
Mm,
then do things for fun. Like if you're feeling a bit burnt out, doing a passion project in your chosen medium to kind of reignite that passion. Like I have so many friends that also do it on the side and then have a really good balance of kind of all of that together. Um, and just take the small wins as well.
I like that. Take the small wins, 100%. And what about you, Maddie?
Yeah, I think I often feel a bit more motivated when I talk to other people. I think, like I was saying, you can get really in your head about that you're not doing what it is you're meant to be doing, or it's not working out the way it's meant to. But when you actually talk to other people and you find out, especially I find when I talk to people who are maybe in like the higher up positions than me, I can find that that's really useful to know that sort of they feel the same way. And it's not just me. But equally, I think it's really important to kind of have that network of people similar age to you, because I think that's really what helps to keep you motivated is seeing people moving at the same pace as you, rather than, I mean, that it's a good and a bad thing, the sort of access to the world and internet we have now, but it means that we're always comparing ourselves. But if you can compare yourself to people that are actually at the same level as you, in the same area as you, it's a much fairer comparison that you're then holding yourself to. And even if you don't meet it, it can at least feel a bit more motivating that, it's not just going slower for you. Other people are struggling with it as well. Um, but I think just, yeah, finding that space where you can connect with people. There's usually, like Emma said, there'll be a local charity or arts venue or school club or something like that. And I think if you can find that and find other creative people to talk to, then that can help. Because I think a lot of people go through the same cycles of feeling. And once you're in that space and you have those people to connect with about it, it can really help. And if there isn't that space, then try and build one yourself. Because that's a lot of the work we see that works well is when people have noticed that gap and thought, I really wish there was this, like I say, that live music venue or this art club or this film screening society. And they build that and it can grow quite quickly because a lot of other people are often looking for that sense of community and that as well. So yeah, I would say that just finding your people can really help.
Amazing. Thank you both so much. Honestly, I really enjoyed that session. You come with such kind of honest, raw, real advice and like truth. So, yeah, thank you for coming. And hopefully, we can get you guys back at our next careers event. Maybe we can do one in Sussex.